Hello Pilgrim. Well, I want to welcome you to my space. Well, here I am living in Sligo, and I'm a couple of months here. It takes a while to settle into any new space, but I did want to make a video to talk about space and the importance of it, and also the practices that can help you bond with a space and turn that space into something magical. Because what I have noticed, and I firmly believe is true, is that, you know, tending to your physical space around you it has an impact inside. When you are physically processing or tending to your environment, it kind of has that mirroring, reflective effect on your inner state as well. So let me tell you where it came from with me, how I kind of realized it. During the final years, and especially the final 6 months of my first marriage, the theme was neglect. Everything was neglected. You know, it was the marriage itself. There was a theme of neglect within it. I was neglecting me. I was neglecting the house. I've always had a lovely relationship with my spaces. I've always turned them into that thing that my mother created when we were growing up, that nest. I have been a nester all my life. So I had abandoned the nest. And I really felt it. But what brought it to my attention was a plant. I had a plant called Bob. And Bob was a yucca plant. And anybody with a yucca plant will know that they are very hardy creatures. And it takes a lot to kill a yucca. But in the in the state of neglect that I had allowed myself get into during that time, Bob, who I had been nurturing for 15 years at that stage, and the plant, I had him for about 15 years, but he was the same age as my brother at the time, would have been 20 something. The plant was 20 something years of age, and it died. And I kind of like that really brought it home to me, because I took great, or at least I thought I did, take great pride in the plants. I have 2 plants in my house. One is Bob, and I have another one out here in the hall that I will show you shortly, and that plant is Lily, and Lily is 50 years old. Lily survived, of course she did. She's surviving a long time now. But when Bob, my plant, died, I realized that, you know, the marriage was dead, the house was dead, and something in me was dying too. I ended up meeting my current husband only a year later. And when he came into my life, it sparked again in me that nurturer, that desire in me to create a nest, to build a nest. So my husband works on the road a lot, and he had been coming and going, and in the house that we were in at the time, I noticed myself doing something. And that thing that I was doing was that I was neglecting the nest when he wasn't there. So he would go away working for a few days, and when he'd come home, I would have a lovely dinner on. I would have tended to the nest. So he was getting the benefit every time, and I was, you know, I suppose I was vicariously, I was getting the satisfaction through him. So I was doing it for him, in other words. And it dawned on me one day I came home from work myself, and he wasn't there, and I had nothing ready for me. I hadn't done the nesting for me. And that dawned on me that day, that why am I reserving this for others? It's kind of like, you know, when somebody is coming to the house, you clean up for them, you know. But like, why wouldn't you do that for yourself? Because it feels good, right? It feels good to organize your space. But we don't do it for ourselves, because we tell ourselves that it's a chore and it's an awful job and it'll, you know, I'm too tired and I've been working hard, and yeah, we have been working hard. But what I want to get across to you is that this is a practice. Putting your space together and tending to your space is not something that you do once and then it stays that way. It is a constant kind of pottering around your space, and it's a ritual. It is composed of a lot of rituals that eventually accumulate into a sense of intentional space. Like you have created an intentional space, and that intentional space manifests inner change, and I can promise you that. So also, but not overnight. Don't be expecting to do this once and for it to be a magic wand. It's not. This is a practice. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I want to show you around my home office. I do these spaces wherever, you know, I have some sort of residency. I have a studio down the road. It is a very intentional space. This is my home office. This is an intentional space. And then when I travel with my workshops, I create an intentional space in which we do the work. And anybody who has been to my workshop can feel that. The minute you walk in, I set the tone. The space sets the tone. So let me show you a couple of things about my space. So this is Lily. Lily is 50 years old at this stage. Lily was my grandmother's plant. And when my grandmother died, I took possession of Lily because my grandmother had been minding her since my mother was 17. Now, I know that not everybody has a home office or room for a home office. I have not always lived somewhere where I have had that room. But there are ways, you know, I've always kind of found ways to transform a place into my own. One of the ways, one of the spaces that you will have, even if you don't have a room, we don't have children, so of course we always have a spare room that I have always claimed as my office. But what you might have, what you should have actually, or what you will have in your space is a windowsill. Windowsills to me are fantastic places to do this honouring. I have this little fireplace in my office. And this acts like this is definitely an intentional space. For want of a better word, this acts like a little altar for me. I know not everybody has a fireplace in their studio or office, but this can be a windowsill. I also do this in windowsills, which I'll show you in a moment. But what I have here is I have my owl, which is, you know, a symbol that I use. I have a big owl tattoo on my arm. The owl is, you know, kind of represents that wisdom, the seeing in the dark, the always learning aspect of me. I have these images of, you know, obviously she's Wonder Woman, and she represents the part of each of us women we do have a superpower, and it is a matter of finding it and then using it for good, I think. This little one here is an exercise that I did many years ago, not many years ago, maybe only about 5 or so years ago, 6, 7 years ago it was. And what that was a self-portrait. And what it ended up being it was basically talk about a prophecy and an intention. And it was a visualization, really, that I did without knowing it. I just sat down to do a self-portrait, and this is what came out of me. And as it turns out, it is the story of me, past, present. It's where I've been, where I'm going, and it is an ongoing thing, and that's very special to me. That was a big poster that I did, but I just photocopied or photographed it and made little prints of it. And I keep that there as my ongoing, evolving intentional self is unfolding. And this is, I didn't paint this either. This is a card from an organisation, Big Love Sister. It's Empowering Young Women organisation. But the Sister of Powerful Magic. Trust your instincts and be yourself. And I particularly love her red dress. And I use a lot of red in my artwork as a kind of a boldness thing. And then I keep these here as well. This is the evolution of my professional self. Like, this is where the business side of me, this started in 2009. I started out as Girlwise, and you know, I went and I got my degree in counselling. I became an artist, and these are the many different ways that my business self has evolved and my business has grown, and the business identity. And you can see that there is, you know, a visual transformation happening. So I keep that. There is an evolution happening here. Another one of the strong women in my life, that's me and my sister. I love that. I love to just keep that there. This is a little card. I have many decks of cards that I will share with you in my blog post. I'll just give you my favorites. But this is my current, this is what I'm manifesting at the moment. I'm manifesting a healing. Healing happens in seasons. It can't be rushed or forced to fit a schedule. So often we curse the seeds that haven't taken root, failing to realize it's not their time. They need more water, sunlight, and care. Bullying ourselves blocks regeneration. Also, sometimes the healing we're focused on isn't the healing that's taking place. There's a much deeper healing going on. Be patient, dear one. You are healing. And that is true. You know. This is my word that I have chosen for the year. This is what I have uncovered and identified as what I would like to focus on in the new year. That is some sage. So I always have some sort of incense or something, and I have little tea light candles usually, and these help me activate the space. So if I have a little tea light candle there, a little bit of incense, I have now brought this alive, and I'm going to it. You know, it is actually a habit now that I have, and it is me visiting really and honouring the altar and activating it. And as you can see, it's an evolving space. I'm always bringing things to it. I'm always kind of dressing it up or tending to it, taking away, adding as I see fit. And it's not a literal thing, and it's not always a conscious thing. I kind of just, whatever I feel, I don't question it too much, but whatever I feel is needed. This tends to change as well. Sometimes I will put different images up here over the fireplace. This is one from my art journal. This is a print that I made from it, and it says I was here, and this is the Rambler, you know, because I'm a rambler, you know, and this year was very much a case of me getting out and about and around, and I was, you know, I did a lot of travelling with my workshop this year, and it was really, really good for me. So I have that up there as an honouring of that. D is for Daisy Jane. Daisy Jane is my, here she is here actually. Daisy Jane is my true self, my true artist self that I recovered during this whole new me process that began in 2009. So I have a D for Daisy, and this little daisies here. Okay, so that's that space. Over here I have a little space. Hi Santi. And we have some mistletoe. But in here on this shelf, I have things that I have collected over the years, or that have been given to me more so than me collecting them. I have a little box here that I love. My mom gave it to me, and in it there is you know, a relic from Padre Pio, and a little key on a pin, and a heart, you know. This here is my favourite bracelet. I have been wearing that for years, and I wore it to death. So it is no longer wearable, it's broken, but I keep it there anyway because it's very me. And then in here is a little locket. And there are my grandparents on my father's side. So yeah, that's me with my granddad Grace and my nana Grace. This little box here is full of, I do a lot of, I love to buy art of other creatives and little bits and pieces, earrings, art, whatever they're making. And these are the little notes that have come with each of them. And some thank you notes and people who have taken the time to, you know, to make me feel appreciated or special or anything like that. So I give them a place. And it's lovely to have that there. If you're ever having a difficult day or anything like that you can just kind of sit with this box and you can read the words of all the people who have taken the time to tell you what you mean to them or what your impact in the world is. My favourite book of reflection, hands down, is Anam Cara by John O'Donoghue. That is a beautiful book. So here is my workspace. So what I have here is a kind of an ongoing collection of things that just end up here or that I've picked up along the way that I like. Again, things that were given to me. I have some family photographs. I have some words that were, I'm trying to block the sun. I have some words that were written about me at a workshop I recently attended. You've always had the power, my dear, you just had to learn it for yourself. And then here I have affirmations to build confidence. It's good to write your own affirmations, but I have them there for the times when you just, you know, need an emergency affirmation. That is a photograph of I wrote on my mirror with lipstick, I believe in you. My self-care repertoire. So I write that down so that I'm looking at this every day and I never have to, because sometimes when you're if you leave self-care until it's an emergency, you might just go blank and not know what you need or what works. So I keep a list of what works and what has worked for me of my self-care. This is my affirmation that I wrote the other day, and I'll share that with you in a moment where that came from. And then this little thing, this clock here, I love. Listen. I love it because it ticks, and I'm in the house a lot on my own. So when I'm in the office here, I love the sound of this clock ticking. I mean, it's a beautiful little clock that I picked up somewhere along the line. I love the ornateness of it, but I also love the tick of it. Oh yeah. And then I have this journal. This is my daily kind of, you know, my journal that I bring out and take notes in and make my shopping list in, and it's my calendar and things like that. But I created a vision board for it. I created it on Canva, and I put it into my journal so that I kind of have this vision board no matter where I go. Okay, so this is my space, and I love being in here. It entices me to be in here when I have this space tended to, you know. So it is important to do your ongoing thing, like it's just a little bit. I don't spend a huge amount of time. Like I don't want for it to become overwhelming. So like little things like bring out your cup, never leave the room empty-handed. I tidy up after myself every time. I'm sitting currently at my my mess desk. This is my art desk right here, and you know, I don't leave a big mess for myself to deal with, because if I leave a big mess to deal with, I can't create in a cluttered space. So how I support my creative practice is I take care of the space. So I clean up after myself every time, and it makes diving in all that much easier. So that kind of applies across the board. Every morning when I get up, I make my bed. It just gives me that sense of you know, taking care of myself and supporting myself, because we work hard. I work hard, and it is lovely when you do work hard to make sure that you, when you are switching off, that you can switch off and just be like, and not be sitting around feeling bad because this needs to be done or that needs to be done. Of course, not everything gets done. Don't think that I'm always on top of everything. I'm not. But anyway, I think you get the drift. Right. So let me tell you about like I said, when you tend to your external space and you make it an intentional space, well, then you are processing physically in your environment, and you are decluttering all the time. So the less actual clutter out here that you have to process, the more room you make inside to process the emotional stuff, the spiritual stuff, the psychological stuff, the stuff underneath it all that is so influential in the day-to-day living of our lives. And I want to show you how I do some of that. So I am a journaler, right? And I keep a lot of journals, and I have journals for different reasons. But one of the things that a journal that it facilitates for me is a dumping. If I carry it all around up in my head, it will get tangled up to the point where I don't know the end from the beginning or the middle. I don't know what's happening. I can't make sense of it. And also, I can't compartmentalize it. So I have to actually physically put it down on the page. And usually in doing that, what will happen is I will discover, oh, I didn't realize I believed that about that. I didn't realize I was judging it, or judging myself, or judging her. I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize I was thinking that. I didn't realize that that's why that was bothering me. It all ends up coming out on the page. And because I use my journal as a tool for self-discovery, self-recovery, self-care, self-growth and development, I tell the truth in here. So there's no censoring. And while I trust who I live with, I don't have a fear that somebody is going to read my journal. But there is always that thing, you know what I mean? I do sometimes think, and I think that this is what holds a lot of people back from telling the truth on the page. They censor themselves at the thought of a third party finding their innermost secrets. Now, I have figured a way around that. And how I get around that is that I have, just over time, developed a writing style in my journal that is very illegible. It's sloppy. When I'm writing, I don't lift my pen off the page. I just keep going. Sometimes I don't, you can't tell, there's no gap between words. I just keep going. It's a rhythm in my hand, and that's what I'm more focused on than the content of what is coming out, because I don't want this to be a censored thing. I also don't read back on this journal, on the journals that I mind dump in. I don't read back over them, so it doesn't matter to me that I can't even read my own writing. The fact that it comes out, I am observing, and that is key when you are journaling, is that you become an observer to the you who is dumping into their journal. And what you are doing by doing that, you are holding space for yourself. You are just bearing witness to all of this stuff coming out on the page. You are not judging it, you are not correcting it, you're not criticizing it, you're not doing anything, you're not interfering whatsoever, and allow it to come out. And it is only when it comes out that a process can begin within you of untangling. This is how you hear yourself. And until you hear yourself, you're not going to feel heard. And until you feel heard, you're not going to be open to the answers. You're not going to be open to your own advice. You're not going to be open to your own wisdom. You're not, it's just not going to, the need to be heard is going to supersede every other need. that you could possibly have, including a need to resolve. So that is how I get around the issue of censorship and privacy. I make my journal very messy, and I just treat it as a moment in time. I am listening, and I am making sure that I feel heard. Here's something really important to remember. When you are keeping a journal is not writing. It is not writing. You are not being examined on this. You are not being assessed on it. This is not about keeping a good journal. This is not about keeping an interesting journal. It's not about any of that. This is the one place in your life where you are not performing here, right? Do not perform in your journal. You are dumping, sorting, filing, all those kind of things, but what you are definitely not doing is, you know, you're not getting ready to show the world. This is your space. Treat it as sacred. Okay, I will give you some work to do in your journal if you want to, some questions to ask yourself, and then I also am going to give you some resources. I have some, like I showed you with the Anam Cara book. I might use that to prompt me some journaling, or I might do that instead of journaling, or I might do that after journaling, because Anam Cara has an index. Another book, The Language of Letting Go, has an index. So if I figured out that one of the things that comes up in my frantic journaling is the theme of control, I will go to The Language of Letting Go, and I will read the passage on letting go of control. I don't have that book here with me, it's down in my studio, but it's an excellent book, and it's a lovely way of taking from the rubble something to process and to actually let go of. Which brings me to the next thing, the whole inviting in and letting go, because you have to let go of something. You have to make room. If you want to invite something into your life, to manifest it in your life, you have to let go of something else. So I recently did an exercise through a mentoring group that I'm a part of, and it was about uncovering a limiting belief. And we uncovered the limiting belief, which is great. It's great to uncover your limiting belief. You have to become aware of what it is that's holding you back. But then what do you do with that? You know what I mean? I decided to turn it around into a sustaining belief, and then to take the limiting belief and I set it on fire and I let it go. So that was something I learned in college years ago. One of my professors asked us to write down what was standing in between you and feeling fine, or what's standing between you and what you want to achieve. So whatever it is, because generally you will do exercises like this when you're feeling blocked in some way. So if you're feeling blocked in some way, or held back, or or burdened, or weighed down, take it to the page and ask that question. If you're feeling held back from doing the thing, identify the thing it is that you would like. What would I like? And then you say, what is standing between me and what I like? And listen for the answer. Do the writing exercise, and something will come up. And if you follow it, if you follow the thread, you will uncover there some sort of a belief, some sort of a fear, some sort of an unchecked thought that is interfering in your moving forward. What you do then is you take it, you write it down on a piece of paper. I'll give you my example from back in the day. This is not the one I just did. Oh, sorry. What was standing between me and feeling fine? I wrote it down on a piece of paper. Fear. Now that is a little bit vague, so you can get obviously way more specific with that, right? Fear of what? But fear was holding me back at that stage. And my tutor said to me, take that now and write down the very opposite of it. And that becomes your new affirmation. Because if fear is what's holding you back, well then the affirmation you are telling yourself is, I am fearful. It's subconscious, I am fearful. I don't do this because I am fearful. So I wrote down this, I am fearless. Now, at the time, that was a little bit too much of a stretch for me, because I was like, well, I'm not fearless, and you know, fake it till you make it. But that was just a step too far. So I broke that down into a mantra. Fear less. 2 words. And that was doable. It's much more doable. The one that I just did, I uncovered a limiting belief. It's something that I beat myself up with a lot. And that is, you know, I push myself, I very often push myself too far. I push myself too far because I have this fear of failing. And one of the ways in which I shame myself is to tell myself that I am failing at life. And that was something, and I had to write that down. And that, even to write it down, was motivation enough to want to let it go. So I wrote down, I am failing at life. And it really helps to write it down, because it makes it real. You can't unring that bell. And it makes it real. You can't live with that knowledge. You cannot live with the knowledge that some part of you is repeating the mantra, I am failing at life. So I turned it around. I said, what is the absolute opposite of that? Obviously what this is rooted, I'm failing at life. How do you even know you're failing at life? Because I'm comparing how I'm doing to how I think you're doing, which is, you know, first of all, how do I even know how you're doing? You know what I mean? So I'm not a fortune teller. Okay, so I turned that into, I am failing at life, to, I am successful. Okay, so I turned it into, and you saw it on my vision board over there, I am successfully living my life. So in this statement here, I have addressed the issue of comparison. I have taken ownership of the direction I'm going is my own. And I have substituted the word failure for success. So I am successfully living, operative word, my life. And that went up on my notice board. And that is going to drive me forward this year. I also have chosen the word prosper as the one word of this. So you can see that it is, you know, what begins as a total rant of messy writing, wherever that has gone. Yeah, so what begins as this is, you know, brought down to this, and I can even make it even more concise down to a sentence. So these are all the tools like that I have, and to be able to distill out of this the wisdom of this, I am successfully living my life. Give yourself an affirmation, and then distill it down even further into one word that will guide you throughout a year, which is prosper. And that is my intention for this year. And that is not just prosper financially. Prosper means to thrive, and I intend for that to be a holistic prospering. I want to be well. I want to do some healing, physically and psychologically and financially. So that is an all-encompassing holistic word. So there we go. This is very long, but I didn't think I could do this in any shorter of a time. So I'm going to issue you a challenge now. And that challenge is going to be to claim your space. And even if it's a windowsill, even if it is a shoebox, whatever it is, I want you to nominate a space in your life that you are going to claim as your own. You could do this outside. You could grab a patch, a little corner in your garden. You could go down to your local beach or park and find a little nook somewhere that you can just set out. This can be done anywhere. And this space is going to act for you as a tool of divination and also manifestation, and you're going to tend to this space over time, and it will evolve. And the challenge that I want to issue you is to join in our Facebook group, and let us, over the next 2 weeks that we have left of this year, share with each other our spaces. Come in and post either photographs with a story of, you know, of the photo that you're posting, what you have done, what you intend to do, what you are inviting in, and what you are letting go of to make room for that. So feel free to come in and do a video for us. Show us around, because the more that we inspire each other with our spaces, the more it also might ignite your imagination, or give you some ideas as to something you would like to bring into your space, or anything like that. So let's bring each other into each other's spaces, and spend the final 2 weeks of this year preparing ourselves to step intentionally into the new year. Because I promise it does give you a sense of momentum and purpose and focus. And while it doesn't solve everything, like I said, this is not a magic wand. This is a practice. It is something to keep you a base. It is a base, somewhere to come and ground yourself and mind yourself. Okay? So I hope that was good. I will have the information in my blog post. I will have links to resources, links to my group, and I will have the some PDF download for you of a journal prompt, and then I will have some ideas for you, and the challenge as well, for you to come in and share your space with us. So thank you for watching, and I hope that was helpful for you, and I will see you on deck real soon.